Hello students, good morning. Okay, today I am starting with the topic the Iraq invasion. So we are studying all these instances to show the US hegemony. So today's topic the Iraq invasion, and it occurred on 19th March 2003. So this operation was named as Operation Iraqi Freedom. Operation Iraqi Freedom, and there was a coalition of 40 countries. So in this Iraq invasion, 40 countries joined with USA, and for this operation there was no UN sanction. There was no UN sanction for this operation. And the main purpose was to prevent Iraq from developing weapons of mass destruction. So what was the purpose of this Operation Iraqi Freedom? To prevent Iraq from developing weapons of mass destruction. So during the time of this operation, there was no evidence of weapons of mass destruction. The coalition forces couldn't find out any evidence of weapons of mass destruction, and it is said that the real intention behind this operation was controlling Iraqi oil fields. The US wanted to control Iraqi oil fields, and they wanted to install a US friendly government there. So what was the real intention behind this operation? Controlling Iraqi oil fields and installing a US friendly government. So when was the Operation Iraqi Freedom? It was in 2003. So it is said that the Operation Iraqi Freedom was a failure, both politically and militarily. So politically and militarily, the Operation Iraqi Freedom was a failure. Saddam government fell quickly, but there was a full-fledged insurgency or uprising in Iraq. The people couldn't support the US action in Iraq. So there was a full-fledged insurgency or uprising. And in this operation, 3,000 US military personnel were killed. And on the Iraqi side, the number became much higher. And regarding the Iraqi civilians, 50,000 Iraqi civilians lost lives in this operation. So Operation Iraqi Freedom was a failure, both politically and militarily, because there was a full-fledged insurgency or uprising among the Iraqis. Then 3,000 US military personnel were killed, and on the Iraqi side the number became much higher. Then Iraqi civilians also lost lives. 50,000 Iraqi civilians lost lives in this Operation Iraqi Freedom. So here one cartoon is given, and it indicates the US hegemony. This mighty soldier is the representation of US. So US is so powerful and can go to any extent to serve its interests. US attacked Iraq even after the UN refused to give its mandate to the invasion. So we already studied that there was no UN sanction for this operation. Even though there was no sanction of UN, the US attacked Iraq. And the US also could combine many other nations in this operation. That shows the hegemonic nature of US. So some exercise questions are there. Why did US launch war against Iraq? Then second one, with reference to Iraqi invasion, mention American weaknesses. Then third, what was the focus of foreign policy of Bill Clinton? Then what was 9/11 event? How did the US respond to it? So prepare answers for these questions. So now we are coming to the next topic. What does hegemony mean? While starting this chapter, I mentioned that hegemony means dominance, predominance. So the word hegemony means dominance, and here we are studying about the dominant nature of US, the hegemon nature of US. So here politically, economically and militarily, the US exercises a predominant nature. So if the question is to define hegemony, you have to write this: political, economic and military predominance of one state over others. Then what is hegemony? Political, economic, military predominance of one state over the others. So in a hegemonic, the nature of a hegemonic country, it will be the dominant country all over the world. So nowadays the US is the dominant power. If we take the case of all countries, which is the dominant state, the US is the dominant state. So hegemony is an international system with only one center of power. So in a hegemonic world, there is only one center of power, and we can call this system as the unipolar world. And the roots of this hegemony lie in the Greek political history. During the time of the Greek civilization, there were city-states. City-states were there, and of these city-states, which was the dominant city-state? Athens. Athens was the dominant city-state. So we are getting the usage of this hegemony from the political history of Greece. So another cartoon, this also shows the hegemonic nature of US. The world is under the thumb of US. So even in Middle East, the US could establish their dominance. US could establish their hegemonic power. And in the case of US, they are not giving much importance to justice. Whatever they like, they are doing in the world. We can take the instances of first this Iraqi freedom, Operation Iraqi Freedom, then the attacks of Taliban. All these are given as the examples of US hegemony. They are not giving importance to justice. So there are three different aspects for hegemony. Hegemony as hard power, then hegemony as structural power, hegemony as soft power. So first topic, hegemony as hard power. So hard power in the sense the military dominance of US. So hegemony as hard power means, or it denotes the US military dominance, and it is the most powerful country. And this US hegemony has two aspects. This military dominance has both this absolute and relative aspects. So first I am going to the absolute. So here it is mentioned that if any country attack US, the opposition can be easily crippled, or the attacking country can be easily crippled by the US, and at the same time the US can shield its own forces from ruin. So absolute means the military dominance of US is absolute, in the sense if any country attack US, the opposition country or the attacking country can be easily crippled by the US, and at the same time it can shield its own forces from ruin. So militarily this US is so strong and it can reach any point accurately, lethally and in time. Lethally means complete destruction. So militarily US is so strong and it can reach any point on this planet accurately, lethally and in time, and it can reach the destination very easily. So absolute in the sense if any country attack US, the attacking country can be easily crippled, and at the same time US can shield its own forces from ruin, and this country is so strong and it can reach any point accurately, lethally and in time, and it can reach the destination very easily. So US military dominance is relative. We are comparing this military power of US and other countries, comparing to other countries' military. So militarily there is no match for US. So relative in the sense militarily there is no match for US. And this dominance, here this dominance is based on the expenditure, the money spent on developing the US military. So here the dominance is based on higher military expenditure, and spends much to increase military capability. So the US spends much to increase military capability. And if we take the next 12 powerful nations of the world, next to US, next 12 powerful nations, the expenditure of these nations is less than that of the US. So the amount spent on military development is so huge. Huge amount is spent for developing their military. So if we compare the expenditure of 12 powerful nations next to US, it is less than that of the US. And Pentagon, in this chapter I already mentioned about Pentagon, the Defense Department headquarters of US. This Pentagon spent much for research and development. While studying, when we studied that first topic, first Gulf War, we studied that war revealed the technological gap between the US and other nations. So technologically very advanced military US has. So Pentagon spent much for the research and development of the US. So we can say that the US military is the highest or the topmost one, both in quantity and quality. So military dominance of US, in its the relative aspect of military dominance based on higher, it is based on higher military expenditure, spends much to increase military capability, and if we take the military expenditure of 12 powerful nations next to the US, it is less than that of the US. Then Pentagon spent much for research and development activities. So the US military is so technologically advanced and it is the topmost military both in quantity and quality. But there are some vulnerabilities for the US military. Even though they could establish their dominance in other parts of the world, it is weak in policing an occupied territory. Policing means maintaining law and order in an area. So after the occupation of a particular region, they are weak. The US is weak in policing that area or in maintaining law and order in that area. And when we studied about the Iraqi invasion, that Operation Iraqi Freedom, we studied that the people couldn't accept the US-led coalition there. So the US couldn't make Iraqi people to accept the US-led coalition. So what are the vulnerabilities or the weaknesses? The US is weak in policing an occupied territory, and they couldn't make Iraqi people to accept the US-led coalition. So next aspect of this US hegemony as structural power. So here the focus is towards the economic domination of the US. So here focus is towards the economic domination. First one, hard power, there the military domination of US, here the economic domination of the US. So US dominates all the economic affairs in the world. How? A dominant power has to support the creation and the existence of an open world economy. So today there is open world economy. So for an open world economy, a dominant power is essential to support the creation and its existence. And the hegemon power must possess the ability and desire to establish certain norms or rules for order and must sustain the global structure. So only the hegemon power can do all these things. They can impose certain rules over other countries. Okay, so in an open world economy, a hegemon power is essential for the existence of this world economy, open world economy, and the hegemon power must possess the ability and desire to establish certain rules for order and must sustain the global structure. So the openness of the world economy, because of the openness of the world economy, whatever is done for the benefit of the hegemon power can be utilized by the other states. So there is today's economy is open to all countries. So because of this openness, because of this open nature of world economy, whatever is done for the benefit of the hegemon power can be utilized by the other countries. Example, role of US in providing global public goods. So before going to global public goods, we have to understand what are called public goods. Those goods that can be consumed by one person without reducing the amount of goods available for someone else. For example, fresh air, public roads, etc. So what are called public goods? Those goods that can be consumed by one person without reducing the amount of goods available for someone else. Then global public goods, those goods which can be used by the whole world, but the control will be in the hands of the hegemon power. So every country in the world can utilize these goods. So global public goods, it is created, these goods are created by the hegemon power, but all other countries can utilize these goods. For example, sea lanes of communication and internet. Sea lanes of communication and internet are the examples of global public goods. So these SLOCs or sea lanes of communication are the trade routes of merchant ships or trade ships. So what are these SLOCs? Sea lanes of communication are the trade routes of merchant ships or trade ships. So the naval power of the hegemon underwrites the law of the sea. So who makes these laws of the sea? The naval power of the hegemon underwrites the law of the sea. So the hegemon power gives the freedom of navigation to all other countries in international waters. So who gives freedom of navigation to all other countries? The hegemon power. So today the hegemon power is US. So the US naval power gives the freedom of navigation to all other countries in international waters. And this US has multi-oceanic navy. That means they had naval bases in many other oceans, Atlantic, Pacific, Arctic, etc. So multi-oceanic navy they possess. The US has multi-oceanic navy. So SLOCs or sea lanes of communication are trade routes used by the merchant ships or trade ships. Then the naval power of the hegemon power underwrites the law of the sea. And freedom of navigation in international waters is given by the hegemon power. And the US has multi-oceanic navy. Then another example of global public good is internet. So internet, today we all are using this internet, but it is developed by the US military in 1950. So in 1950 the US military developed this internet, and this internet works with the help of satellites, and most of the satellites, a global network of satellites are owned by the US government. So I am coming to the point, this internet is developed by the US. Even though it was developed by the US, all other countries can utilize this facility, and we are also utilizing the facility of satellites, global network of satellites, the main creation by the US. So the US dominates in all parts of the world, in all sectors of the world economy, in all areas of technology, and its share in the world economy is 28%. So US dominates in all parts of the world, in all sectors of the world economy, in all areas of technology, and its share in the world economy is 28%. So if we take the US share among the intra-European Union trade, there also its share is 14%. Intra-European Union trade means the trade among the member nations of European Union. So there the US share is 14%. So in all sectors of world economy, an American firm can come in the top 3 list. So if we take the different sectors of economy, a US firm can come in the top 3 list of all these 3 sectors. So another example of global public good is it is not good some institutions that Bretton Woods institutions. So at the time of after the end of Second World War, it became essential to rebuild the international economic system of monetary management. It became essential. So because many countries became weak in their economic status. So after the Second World War, it became essential to rebuild the economic system. So a Bretton Woods institutions were set up under the leadership of UN, but actually these Bretton Woods institutions are the products of US, International Monetary Fund, World Bank, then World Trade Organization. All these three are the products of American economic hegemony, and these three institutions are called as the Bretton Woods institutions. So these institutions still constitutes the basic structure of the world economy. So Bretton Woods system also can be also included in the global public goods. So these institutions were the products of America, and these institutions, these Bretton Woods institutions lent money to many other countries to make them economically stable. So these institutions constitute the basic structure of the world economy. So the concept of business as a profession came from US. For example, this MBA, Masters in Business Administration. So this is also the product of America. First business school in the world was set up in Wharton School at the University of Pennsylvania in 1881. So first business school in the world was Wharton School at the University of Pennsylvania in 1881, and first MBA courses came in 1900 in US, okay, in 1900, but first MBA course outside US came in 1950s. So the concept of business as a profession came from US. The course of MBA started in US. An institution for this course of MBA was set up in Wharton School at the University of Pennsylvania in 1881. Then first MBA courses were started in 1900. Then first MBA course outside US came in the year 1950. So the third aspect of US hegemony as soft power. So first we covered hegemony as hard power. There we covered the military dominance of US. Then second, hegemony as structural power. There we covered the economic domination of the US, how the US provides global public goods to all other countries, and several examples we covered, that sea lanes of communication, then internet, Bretton Woods institutes, etc. So next we are coming to the hegemony as soft power. So here we will cover the cultural dominance of US. So in the beginning of this chapter, one example of blue jeans is given. So that is the cultural hegemony of US. So America dominates in the social, political, cultural and ideological spheres also. Thoughts, dreams and lifestyles of many people in different parts of the world are very much Americanized. So we are also attracted towards the American culture. Nowadays, the new generation is using the Western dress. You have great attraction towards this American culture. So the dominant power has ideological resources to shape the behavior of lesser powers. There is no compulsion, or the US is not forcing people of other countries to follow their culture, but naturally it happens. So the dominant power has ideological resources to shape the behavior of lesser powers, and one example, nearly half of the world population today watches these Hollywood movies. It is also an influence of the US culture.